our Borders returns.
We're returned here. We're back.
Returning. That is actually one of the themes of today's discussions is sequels. So I thought we'd do a return.
Yes, sequels.
Yeah,
they come back.
They do.
Not always better either.
Yeah, and some characters more so than others. Last week we talked about Halloween, so it figures that I'm quite into Halloween, and I like the excuse to kind of dress up and
don't we all, dear?
Yeah, depending on the occasion. So for me, so my Halloween, I had quite a blockbuster weekend actually. I saw Halloween Kills on Thursday with my friend Andy.
Yeah.
I then went to Halloween party Friday evening. I went to another Halloween party on Saturday evening.
You're indulging there, aren't you? You're indulging there. Come on.
Well, making up for the pandemic isolation. And then Sunday, I then watched Rob Zombie's Halloween from I think 2007, 2008, which I'll also talk about. So
that's gluttony. That is. That's gluttony. That's gluttony.
It's a bit overkill, but I am also
over the top. That is.
I am shooting a horror short film part 2 this weekend. So
that's even more.
It was some research. Yeah, so it's like a 2-week binge on horror movies.
My arse. No, it's just like Halloween. That's all it is.
Maybe it is. Yeah, but, no, but the excuse of being able to dress up and is all good. And otherwise, I've only got Comic-Con and my birthday, so this is like another excuse. So like 3 times a year I can dress up. You know.
I dress up all year.
Yeah, but you're just a walking,
I dress up all year. I do. I dress up all year, so I don't understand that concept.
So, for those who don't know David, he basically walks around like Doctor Who of charity shops.
Big hats, scarves, I have a pirate day, I may have a kind of Doctor Who day, I might have just whatever, a pixie day. My wife calls me a pixie, so there you go.
Steampunk
slash
pirate day,
a steampunk on pirate, there you go. Right, so go on, let's talk about this sort of sequence then. Go on.
So, for those of you, Halloween is a long-standing franchise, for better or worse. And obviously the classic was Jamie Lee Curtis's first film.
She's still there, isn't she?
She is indeed, yes. Halloween, I think it was released in the mid-70s.
Late 70s.
Late 70s, classic movie. But quite simple and brutally efficient. Basically she's getting terrorised by Michael Myers.
It's a simple story, isn't it, really? It's pretty simple story. Young woman takes on lunatic.
Yeah, and really was one of the cementing forefathers of the slasher genre.
Yeah.
So credit where it's due. They've set.
Well, it set it up for other films. Yes, it did.
Jason, Friday the 13th, then came along kind of very quickly after, and I think then actually Freddy was a close cousin or something at the time. So those are the kind of the trilogy of horror heroes, as it were. And then they did a huge number of Halloween sequels. I think maybe 7 or 8. And Halloween 1 and Halloween 2 closely follow each other. Then they went off on a very strange tangent involving kind of witchcraft.
Spaceships.
No, not quite. That's Jason X.
I get confused with them all.
Then they done H2O, which was 20 years later. Jamie Lee Curtis came back for that. Obviously a giant paycheck, I'm sure, probably helped. And what was interesting with that one is she said that she wanted Michael Myers to die in that thing.
Right.
And the producers were like, look, okay, we can't quite do that, but how about your character thinks she kills Michael Myers?
Yes, thinks.
So she's like, so on that technicality, she said yes, but in return, if they make a film afterwards that she dies in the opening, she didn't want to do it anymore. So what happened is, spoiler, but H2O ends with Michael Myers' head apparently being cut off, but in Resurrection apparently it opens with actually the guy who she thought she killed was actually someone else who inexplicably put on the Michael Myers mask just at the right moment, and she cut his head off. So it was terribly contrived.
Very timely.
Very
timely.
Yeah.
Very timely indeed. I like that. I said, oi mate, don't put on that mask because she might chop your head off. Yes, exactly.
It opens with her in Resurrection in an asylum because she then finds out she didn't kill Michael Myers, goes mad.
But she's in a loony farm.
Yeah, and then she dies.
That's it. I know. I said that's the way, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yes, in a lunatic asylum.
So then it all sort of, then a few other ones, and then blah blah blah, and then Halloween 2018. Halloween 2007-2008 was then a reboot of the first Halloween, and it looked at Michael Myers' traumatic childhood. Now, actually, I went in watching that on DVD with very, very low expectations, like super low. But actually, I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised that actually he managed to, within the world ridiculousness of the film, he actually managed to make it sort of make sense, and you got to see why Michael, as a young boy, would grow up being a bit of a bastard. Okay, so it was an interesting movie. Some hard-hitting kind of early childhood experiences shaken later on. So yeah, it done something interesting, I thought. Then Halloween 2018 came along, which is when Jamie Lee Curtis was back in the saddle, long hair, PTSD, wielding a shotgun, very bitter.
Great.
Yeah, and that was a clever movie because it talked about trauma and how Michael and her, she couldn't really let go of this whole situation and everything else. Halloween Kills picks up minutes after the first one, where we think she burns Michael Myers to death in the house, and he's then out on the streets of Halloween doing what he does best. And Halloween Ends apparently is going to be coming out next year or the year after, which is set then when the mob then apparently will then work out a way to kill Michael Myers. That's the rough loose thing. Now, it's one of those weird movies where there's almost like a joy in the expectation of knowing that he's not going to die. Now, what it does
not for me.
No, I'm saying, but
not for me.
No.
I want the bugger to die.
But that's what I'm saying.
I hate sequels.
It's a weird viewing experience because it almost turns it into a spectacle because you know he's not going to die.
Yeah.
So it's like, right, okay, so how is he not going? So it's going to be, how is he not going to die this time, right? So
that's ridiculous.
I know, but
ridiculous. You can't have a movie.
But
you can't have a movie.
But that's where we're at. That's where we're at with this now.
How's he not going to die in this film?
This guy, he gets burnt to death. He gets shot 3 times. He gets baseball batted, crowbarred. Everything happens to him.
Have they cut his head off yet?
Oh yeah, that was ages ago.
Oh, ages ago. That's all pattern.
The only way I can think of it is if they shoot him with a rocket launcher and then bury the body parts in separate parts of the globe.
I think setting up in different rockets into space.
Yeah, could do.
Enjoy Jason then, can
he? It's almost like no other thing that I've watched where, like, even Terminator, like at the end they normally blow him up and he says I'll be back. Well,
but at least you know he's coming back. But at least you know he's coming back, and we don't mind him coming back.
Well, we do now because it's.
Oh yeah, but he's coming back with support.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because he's wobbling a bit, isn't he? Bless him.
So it's really bizarre, and it's like, but it's almost like this black kind of humour thing because Michael Myers is still an icon. He's still a huge figure. They've still got the menacing music, so that all still works. But it's like, there's a scene where he gets this guy's head and bashes it up and down between his banisters, like for quite a long period of time. So it starts to get sort of humorous, I guess, because it goes on so long. And then he's walking down the stairs and this guy's head is there. And you know he's not going to be able to walk past and leave him alone. So he then does a quick casual neck break as he walks down the stairs. Now the thing is, the audience laugh because the whole thing is just like so kind of over the top and grisly. So it's become kind of like this black humour kind of thing.
I go into the kitchen at that point.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's like, I sat there, I watched it. Me and my friend, because Andy, he's like really very critical kind of horror movies, and it kind of done what it said in the tin. But there's a scene where that they try to imply that the mob are the monsters that make people like Michael Myers, and it was a bit heavy-handed, I think. And at the end, the mob decides to take him on, and somehow again, he manages to survive a good old beating. So so a bit of a strange experience. Saying that, idiots like me will still go and see part 3 when that comes out.
Yeah, I kind of watch it on DVD and watch the very end of the 5 minutes. Go, thank God it's over. I must admit, I'm not a big horror fan.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not my thing, and I'm interested in the culture of it because obviously I teach my students and they love it.
Yeah.
But I think because of the sequel thing, and as you said, one is obviously he keeps coming back, but secondly, they're just reinventing ways to make more money and having more sequels. And I just keep thinking, come up with something new. Well, and that's my thing. Come up with something new, my dears. Now, come on.
I think there's sort of standards of sequels. So,
yes.
So, for example, like the Batman trilogy, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises. You got 2 sequels there, but they develop the characters' arcs and introduce new villains and new
it's brilliant
things.
Yeah.
I think Halloween is one of the ones where, I think in some regards they have tried, with getting the older Laurie Strode back, and there are some interesting ideas there. But I think the thing is, it's too kind of manufactured. It's too repetitive.
That's exactly.
I think that's the problem.
It's the manufacturing of it. It's just like they just kind of put it on the conveyor belt and come again. That's what I get upset with.
It feels like that,
It does feel sometimes.
There's other sequels I've watched, like Terminator 2, which expands the themes of the first one in a new area, which I quite like. So,
Well, it keeps you guessing, and it keeps you wanting to know more. And when the minute I think that Halloween or Friday the 13th come up, I think Nah.
Well, that's it. It's a very. I can't even compare anything like it where you sit down and you know the villain is not going to die.
No.
Almost any other film that I've watched, there's that thing in your mind that you're hoping and okay, how's he? Is it going to end? But with this, I already know that he's not going to die. So it's just bizarre, And what it does, it changes the stakes of the movie. Because it's like, well, if you know the villain can't die, it's then okay, what else is there to do? So then you're sort of watching the heroes and you're wondering if they're going to die. So it's a really macabre viewing experience,
Yeah.
But what about sequels in general? Like, have you had sequels that you thought were better or as good as the first one? I mean, for me, The Dark Knight expands upon the ground set in Batman Begins very effectively.
I think the one with the cars.
What, Fast and Furious?
Yes, it just goes on and on and on.
That does go a bit too far.
And I think, come on, let's.
Well, it started off as a street racing movie.
Yeah, it did.
And in the last movie, there's a scene where two guys end up in space. And
I know.
That's a long way away from the streets.
I don't think, I can't really think. I mean, the only thing that I can remember that I liked was, of course, Michael Caine was in the kind of. The spy movies in the mid '60s, and I used to like some of those because
like Ipcris File?
Yeah, Ipcris File, and then you had I didn't like the last one.
Harry Brown?
Yeah, is it Harry? Anyway, but basically, the first two were great. The third one got a bit silly. It didn't make any more. But then they tried to come back 20 years later with him, and that didn't work either. And so they had Sean Connery's son in it. So I mean they tried, but I liked it because it wasn't so much Bond. It was a bit different kind of movie. But with sequels, I think no, not really.
I think the difficulty you got with sequels. So guys, I used to work in film and TV about a decade ago. I still dabble in it, but it's more of a part-time thing now. But basically, the whole sequel thing is it mitigates risk. Yeah. So the thing is, films are so expensive, so costly, the marketing's so expensive. A lot of movies bomb. That basically studio execs, instead of greenlighting maybe a really amazing original movie, they're like, let's do Halloween '58 because it's a brand that people know. It's something that they can pre-sell because they've got figures based on the other movies. And unfortunately, that's how a lot of lazy filmmaking is done. I mean, you can look at today's cinema listings. I can guarantee you, nearly over 90% will be remakes, sequels, existing properties.
Well, it's not sequels. Back to what you just said, it's remakes. Yeah. And I can understand the logic of making something that has been made before to appeal to a new generation. But then you can say, well, why don't you just look at the original, appreciate the original for what it was, come up with something new? Because it's like the Italian Job.
Yeah.
They made the Italian. I mean, the Italian Job was a British icon in respect of the kind of cheeky chappy, all that stuff. What do? They transport it to America. And the only homage they made was to the original was a little kind of bit quickly on the kind of TV while he's talking to something. And I thought that was very sad, and it didn't really work because there were new minis. And
it's something like the essence and character of the original has somehow gone.
Well, there's a period thing. There's a period thing.
They've just manufactured, copied it, but the soul has gone.
It was the period. And I mean, it's interesting that one of the famous British kind of war films was Zulu, of course. Well, then they made the kind of a sequel to that, which was it called The Battle of Rwanda, and that I think I'm correct, and. Because they didn't have the same actors in, and because it's actually dated the Rorke's Drift in the original historically, it didn't make sense. And they had Burt Lancaster in it, which I'm sorry, the Rorke's Drift, you had Michael Caine and Stanley Baker, and you had Nigel Green. You had some fantastic actors, and I love Burt Lancaster, but I'm sorry, it didn't work, and all got sorted in the end. So it was a flop.
It's funny, isn't it? Like some things just come along, they work for that period of time, and that's it. And and they go back down to mine the well again, and they don't get the same kind of results. I think sometimes it is just a unique place at a unique time, and it's funny the sequel stuff because we've got to think about is Halloween wasn't always a franchise. It was independent. It was a very independent movie. Saw, which is now a huge franchise and is controversial, but we have to acknowledge that it started off as an original thing, and now it's
and Hostel and all those kind of ones.
So my point is, is, okay, whilst we're busy remaking all these old stuff all the time, it's like the new blood, potentially like new franchises are getting kind of shut out.
They do.
And I'm
compete.
so pleased that Netflix have kind of shaken up the power in a sense that so much of the stuff that they've
upset it.
Is original, it's ballsy, they've taken far more creative risks in the stuff that they've made than studios can. And I honestly can foresee the cinema stuff getting even more dumbed down, even more watered down, even more sequels, because now it's so expensive for it to be released. I think streaming is going to be the home in the future of stuff that's more edgy, more provocative, doesn't fit the
the dramas fit in there, and also it carries on, I think, onto the other subject we wanted to talk today, is on for V for Vendetta, because it is going up to Guy Fawkes time, which is tomorrow, and the thing is that you've got many now films which are coming from graphic novels. So V for Vendetta was Alan Moore, remember right?
Who absolutely hates Hollywood, by the way.
He hates Hollywood,
absolutely.
and I don't think he was fully happy with. No, the Watchmen he wasn't fully happy with.
No.
I don't know about V for Vendetta. I don't expect he was happy with that either. He's a
bit difficult to please.
He's very pissed,
But kudos, he knows his stuff.
He knows stuff. But the thing is with V for Vendetta, I mean, I thought I loved.
I really liked it.
I really liked the film. Yeah. It brought up a lot of stuff regarding, obviously, kind of the rise of the far right, and we're seeing that a lot now in Europe. Yeah. But obviously, it brought into a modern Britain where that could happen. So a Tory suddenly turns into a fascist.
John Hurt screaming.
John Hurt screaming,
which is very clever casting, because he was actually I can't remember his name, but in 1984 he was the guy in the overalls.
He's got the overalls,
now he's a screaming politician.
Richard Burton was the one in charge. But what was interesting, I think, with V for Vendetta is it brought in other things, that the way that governments and the media can create conspiracies, can cover things up, because in that particular film there was this poisoning, and then that kind of kick-started the kind of rise of this, the implementation of an emergency government, which was a far right-wing government, and so forth. But I think it offset a lot of things, that film. It set off the kind of autonomous hacking group. They use that as the icon of that. They use that very well. Also, it's seen now as a kind of an emblem of resistance.
So it's a symbol that people use.
So I mean, it brings in the whole anarchist thing. But of course,
actually, it's quite clever, because it ties into the face is actually of Guy Fawkes, and Guy Fawkes himself was a rebellious figure.
He
plotted to blow up Parliament.
He did.
So it's a symbol that takes on a number of meanings.
It did, but the thing, what I think is good, it goes back to what you said earlier on about Netflix, is that Netflix has tried to take up some of these graphic novels and to create films with them, whereas some of the mainstream kind of filmmakers haven't. They've used let's say Marvel and DC Comics, but they haven't always gone into other areas. I mean, Netflix took up I think it was Netflix or Prime, kind of used the one, I forgot they call it, I think they call it the Outcast or the Untouchables, where you've got a group of superheroes with a range of different kind of
The Boys, is it?
No, it's called The Boys. No, and they've got a range of different kind of. They call The Boys, I forget now, but a range of different.
On Prime, there's a series called The Boys, which is about people with superpowers. So
yes, it might be called The Boys, but I mean, but actually Timothy Dalton's in it, so it might be that's the one.
Oh, okay.
But basically, these guys have got these powers, but they've all in society have got various differences, and I think that comes from a graphic novel. So I think it's great, and I think we want to see more of that. Actually,
I think in mild defence of the studios, I won't say this too long, but I think the difference you've got is Netflix have known subscribers.
Yes.
They know if they have 200 million subscribers that a certain proportion amount of their content will be watched. Okay.
Yeah.
The difficulty you've got with studios is basically they're just like, right guys, here's a film, it's in the cinema, do you go see it? It's actually a far riskier business model.
Yeah, I know. I understand that.
If you notice, so Disney Plus, they have their subscription service. I can't imagine people will then shell out specifically for Fawkes and Warner Bros. I think that would be a step too far.
No.
But if you notice, Warner's teamed up with like HBO Max, and there is a bit of teaming going on with the different services. So I think it's gonna be an interesting future. I think mainstream cinema, I think, will become increasingly lazy and reliant on pre-existing properties. But I think stuff like Prime and Netflix will champion more diverse and brilliant content.
But there are some good graphic novels out there, and I want to see them adapted.
I actually quite liked Watchmen. I think if you read the original, it's quite a dense and tricky novel, graphic novel to actually put successfully on the screen. So for me, actually, I went in with expectations were quite low for Watchmen. I actually came out pleasantly surprised. They made some key changes, like that giant squid thing isn't in it. No. But I actually really enjoyed that it was kind of a subversive take on superheroes.
It was, but it challenged the way that they stand on this pedestal, and that basically, you can be as corrupt and as perverted and everything else as anyone else in society, but you just have to, you've got superpowers or whatever powers you've got. So I thought challenge on that.
Do you think we're kind of saturated in superhero stuff now? I mean, for me, sometimes I do find it like, I'm looking through the listings, I'm like, it's just like,
I'm tired of that. I mean, that's one of the...
Don't get me wrong. No. Like, I grew up watching Batman, but it would be Batman for a couple of years. It wouldn't be, next week something else is coming out. But you'd have Batman that would last a couple of years, then a Superman that would last a couple of years. Nowadays, every month there's a new one.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think it would carry on. I mean, I think the good hope, back to Netflix, is that they're not Netflix, but let's say Prime. I think it's Prime in this case. Was that the one that I got into was Carnival Row. Now I love Carnival Row.
I haven't seen that, but
Now Carnival Row is very good because it's set in this kind of, I suppose, alternate kind of universe where.
So is it Victorian London?
Victorian London or Victorian kind of European country. That has a kind of a dodgy government, but they've just been involved in a war abroad. Dealing with trying to save a particular group. It brings in lots of more modern kind of references, like immigration and people who are fleeing war-torn areas, coming into a welcoming country, and the country becomes non-welcoming and sees them as the threat. So you've got all these elves and pixies, which are seen as, and trolls and something like that, who are seen as the kind of welcome
immigration metaphor.
Metaphor, but also the rise of the far right, and I loved it. And of course, Orlando Bloom's in it.
Is that good or bad?
Oh, it was good. He's actually, I thought he was all right actually. And I forget her name, Denevue or whatever it's called.
Denevine.
Denevine. I mean, she's great in it. I like her when she gets her wings out.
I have to say, when you said Orlando Bloom, I got painful flashbacks to his performance in the Pirates franchise.
I'm not going to knock that. He was all right. But but the thing is, I like those type of things, and it goes back to V for Vendetta. Is that those things, I think, also raise more political issues for me, because I like films that do that. But I still like things. I like things that could be steampunk or whatever, or whatever it is. But it raised social issues. I
actually can't think of anything recent like V for Vendetta actually. It came out about 10 years ago. I was just trying to think.
More than that, actually.
Yeah,
more than
at least 10, 15 maybe.
Yes.
I'm actually going to watch it again because actually this time of year, because of Guy Fawkes, I normally have it on my radar as something to rewatch. I probably watch it once a year.
But see, the film that I think was wasn't fully distributed, and anyone listening out here, I recommend, if you get a chance, watch it. And the film that I loved was Solomon Kane. Now Solomon.
James Purfoy.
Oh. The man was wonderful, and now
very underrated film.
But Solomon Kane was all set during the kind of I suppose just around after Elizabethan times. And this fella was served with Drake. He came back and he had encountered kind of evil, and he basically was then taking on his brother, and lots of things going on. But he tried to save this girl from demons. Now, what I liked about it, it was set in the West Country.
Yes, it was.
Which I loved it, which is the immortal words from Solomon Kane, is when he asks a fella, he says, what's this God-forsaken place? And the fella says, you're on the Somerset-Devon border. And I've been up on that Devon-Somerset border, and it is a godforsaken place at times, so I know exactly what it is. But he had a bit of a West Country accent. I thought it was cracking.
And the sad thing is, I don't think it made enough money, so we'll never see any of the sequels.
No, but they didn't
How
distribute.
awful is that?
It didn't go into America, and it's ridiculous. And the same thing with I was watching Warcraft last night.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
I loved it. I know. I've never played the game. I'm not interested in that stuff. That's for people I just think need a life. But personally, no disrespect to anyone there, but I love the film.
Yeah.
But again,
Hang on, no disrespect to anybody there, but you need to get a life.
yeah. Never mind. But the point is, no. I mean, I used to play with toy soldiers, so hey, I'm as bad as anyone else. But the point
so
is,
he redacts that statement, people.
I redact it. Cut that out. I'm a sad banana as well. Right, there you go. But the thing is that with Warcraft, I understand it did very well in China. Oh, they loved it in China. Yeah. Oh, they loved it. It didn't go to America, so let's don't make another one.
Exactly, yeah.
And that was sad. And they had actors that weren't mainstream actors, but they were bloody good. And it was a cracking film. There's all swashbuckling, there's trolls in it. Oh, I loved it. But no, they didn't make a sequel. Now, they could have made a sequel with that one sequel. They could have carried on. But no, they didn't.
No.
But no, they go back and do bloody Batman again.
Hey, leave Batman alone. It's Michael Myers.
No, they do. They do bloody Batman again. I've had enough of Batman. Bring back Solomon Kane on, another one of Solomon Kane.
That's true. Yeah, I think we could, or one less Halloween movie and do Solomon Kane instead. That's what I would prefer. I'm okay with Batman, to be fair. Michael Myers definitely needs to die.
But if we're going to talk now about, and of course this is Hollywoodization, it would be great to see, even though it was kind of completely playing with history, but they've done that enough times. Why can't we have Tarantino, if you hear this, my dear, make a film on Guy Fawkes? Could you imagine Tarantino version of Guy Fawkes?
That would be good.
What would happen? He'd blow the bloody Parliament up. He did enough trying to kill Hitler in Bastards.
Although I think they did do a limited mini-series with Kit Harington from Game of Thrones as Guy Fawkes, but it's like a 3-part TV
I
series.
saw that.
And apparently he's a long distant cousin of Guy Fawkes himself.
Yes, I remember reading that. Yes,
so, I don't know, have you seen that?
I've seen that. Yes,
I haven't seen it.
Because what is interesting at the end is that they do show what actually happened to him. Which he was drawn in prison. He was, but then he was drawn and quartered and put it on the front gates of York, I think, or somewhere like that.
Oh, charming.
Something like that.
Yeah. Have a happy end for him.
Yeah. I forget her name now. Who was in it? But the lass who was in Lord of the Rings, who played the elf. Not Kate. Liv Tyler. She was in it.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah. Then she went into harlots after that.
Okay.
She moved from all that kind of bit period. Yeah.
Okay.
Went from Guy Fawkes to harlots. Yes.
Charming.
Yes.
We have like 4 minutes left.
Okay.
Shall we quickly crowbar in the electricity?
Yes. Crowbar electricity. Well, this week in the papers, there's this whole idea about they're not going fast enough to put in these charge up meters for for electric cars. And
so what, just across the country? Or,
across the country.
Stations? Or
it's stations, not stations, but just in
okay.
you know, people parking up along their roads won't be able to kind of, you know, there's not. People aren't going to change over to electric cars if they can't charge them up.
Well, because at the moment, what it is fortunately on campus we've got charging points, but then otherwise it's just back at home, back at garage.
Yeah, but everyone's got a garage. Yeah. So the point I'm making is that So this is the thing.
That's what we've
so they're saying that by 2030 they want to then ban all petrol and diesel cars. And
they need the charging stations to support
charging stations, which goes back to the whole issue. Is that it's not so much the kind of electric cars, it's the whole thing, it's actually cars generally. We need to reduce cars. And there's always been an argument. I mean, for the last 30 or 40 years, but the point is that, you're going to have electric cars, but you need to make public transport cheaper. And as we're finding at the moment, it's very expensive. We are the most expensive in Europe. Now that would then balance up that we've got more people will then be able to afford to go to places because they can go on to the
It's a bit of a vicious cycle because it's like if you know public transport's crap, and expensive, and you want the convenience. That's why people have cars in the first place.
Well, I understand that.
I know, same.
But that's why they've got to solve that issue. They've got to solve that issue, haven't they?
For me, I'd say, the electricity, I think, is at least a step forward. Because you're
not disputing that.
No, let me finish.
Let me finish. Go on.
The emissions, to combat the overall problem of the emissions, I'd say electricity overall is a step forward.
It is.
But as you've said yourself, it needs to be as regular to be able to charge up as a petrol station. You need to be able to have that access.
But also, just remember that a lot of these cars are very expensive at the moment, and it's interesting that in China you can now get a £5,000 electric car.
I'm not sure if you're safe in that.
Well, it's called the safe.
Teslas I'd say I've seen inside Tesla. They are wonderful.
Yeah, but these things are going to come in. The thing is, they're going to be more affordable electric transport. But you've got to balance it up. Yeah. So in Luxembourg, I understand, it was until recently, all the public transport was free. Yeah. That means that people have got a choice. So you don't have to buy a car. Not everyone can afford it, or they've got nowhere to park a car. And we get congestion, not just cars moving, but congestion in roads where they're parking up. Yeah. So I think it's an interesting one. I really do think it's an interesting one. But I don't know how.
The problem you've got is the public transport thing requires investment by the government.
It does. It does.
That's a whole.
But there's also a philosophy that they're very much for this individual, for the individual, which means for your own personal car ownership. Yeah. And I think that's going to be an issue that's going to struggle fighting what we call collective transport rather than individual transport. Yeah. And that's the big thing, you know what I mean? So but there you go. So there's fireworks now. You want to see some fireworks? Is it tomorrow? You going out to watch fireworks?
Well, apparently there's something happening tonight, so I might go and do that. And then at the castle there's the light up thing. I think at 7 or 8 o'clock on Saturday.
Good. So that's in Lancaster, by the way.
It is Lancaster.
Lancaster.
Yeah.
It goes up.
Technically, you'd have to pay if you're near the castle, but I just walk to the bridge and watch it for free. So.
Many people go to the Ashton Memorial and watch it from heights, which I do. It's lovely up there. Yeah. No, it's lovely up there. No, it is. Good stuff.
Right, well, enjoy fireworks, folks.
Oh my dear, you have a lovely Guy Fawkes, yes, and put a mask on.
Yeah. I was trying to think of something amazingly political from V for Vendetta. What does he say that's really amazing?
Remember the 5th of November.
The gunpowder treason and plot.
Yes.
Something. He never wanted it to be forgot.
To be forgot, yes.
And then he said something else. Anyway.
Bye, my dears. Bye-bye.
Purge completed.